Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Aviation Maintenance Never Events big reveal here. My name is Tony Kern. I'm the CEO of Convergent Performance. And just by way of introduction, I've been bouncing around this industry for about 40 years, mostly as a knuckle-dragging Air Force pilot, but a few other things as well as a short period of time, commander of a maintenance squadron in the Air Force. So a little bit of background, mostly from the operations side, but thank you so much for joining us today. We're mindful of your time. We'd like to make sure you're safe. So please, if you're driving, watch this recorded when you get home. If you've got a pot of spaghetti on the stove, make sure you got somebody to take it off, whatever. Just please be safe. I know there's a lot of bad driving conditions out there in the country today as well. So make sure getting and coming to wherever you're going today, you do safely as well. We'd like to begin this with kind of just simple rules of engagement, and that is I'm going to be presenting for about 35, maybe 40 minutes on what this is all about. Then we'll leave some time for questions. If you have a question throughout the webinar, please feel free to post it in the comments if you're able to do so. And then at the end, we'll address as many as we possibly can, mindful that we want to make sure that those of you that only have a short period of time to watch this and have taken time out of your valuable day, get everything you can out of it. So with that, let's go ahead and roll into this, and I'll tell you a little bit about the challenge. We already know about the challenge, right? I mean, depending on what document you read, what research report you look at, we know that human error in aviation maintenance is costing this industry billions of dollars a year. I mean, that's shocking. And then when we add in the other costs, right? The cost of rework, the cost of downtime, retraining, all the HR actions, and then of course your brand reputation, which is hard to put any sort of number on. This number escalates dramatically. It doesn't have to be this way. And for the past 5 years, what we have done is slowly but surely evolve what came out of a single question and challenge to us into what I believe even those of you who have seen parts of this program, and quite frankly, there's a few people on here who have experienced Neverevents training, you're going to see that what we're about to talk to you about today is an entirely different beast. And we have spent a good bit of time trying to solve a challenge that came to us in 2012 with a single question. I was sitting at my desk in our headquarters in Colorado Springs when I got a phone call from the president and CEO of one of the largest insurance companies in the world. And basically the story he told me was about a large original equipment manufacturer maintenance network, multiple locations, thousands of technicians, that was having a really, really significant, continuing, sustained problem with technician-induced error. Not just technician-induced error, but also servicing errors, moving aircraft, that sort of thing, right? They had done everything. They were averaging nearly $4 million in claims per year, and they tried everything. Safety management systems, back to basics approaches, dirty dozen human factors training, disciplinary actions, all kinds of stuff, but nothing was working for them. And so after about 6 months of global research, we discovered that there's basically 6 events that result in over $20 billion in damage worldwide. We decided we'd call them never events because they're all 100% avoidable. And we decided at that point in time, we didn't want to make a dent. We wanted to build a program to eliminate them. Okay? Kind of what we do. We love big challenges that have been hanging around for a while. Those of you that know a little bit about me know that I've written a lot of books on vague terms like airmanship and professionalism and taking human error on pretty strongly. This fit right into our wheelhouse. And so as we began to build that program, I realized it was going to take a few years and a few beta tests to get it right. Well, I think we're ready now to roll this out to the world. And basically we're asking for your help to turn this into a movement where we can sweep this problem off the radar screen. It's something that is absolutely doable, but in the high-tech industry of aviation, we always are looking for a technological solution, right? We want something that's going to take the human out of the equation. Well, you can't do that here. Aviation maintenance, inspection, detection, repair, airworthiness is at its essence a human activity. And so we've got to take on this challenge. And you can tell kind of from my enthusiasm, I'm excited about it. And I'm hoping I can convey some of that enthusiasm to you and show you this is not too big of a giant to slay. What happened at this OEM shocked us, and it shocked them. Now, I got the phone call in late 2012, and this is not our chart. This is a chart directly from the insurance company, and you can see the insurance claims, and this is over and above their deductible, which was quite high, by the way. And two things I want you to look at. I want you to look at the number of claims and how much money it was costing. That's obvious. But I also want you to look at this cyclic nature up and down, because as you look at that, you're going to see what is traditionally the ebb and flow of human error accidents in any industry that we work in. And we work in a lot of them. Right? Typically, there'll be a really bad year. A few people will get fired. There's some real intense pressure to knock this off. We're going to fix this, and things get better. But then they come back up toward the mean. And the reason that is, and this is a pro tip for you, the reason that is because the cultural elements that led to it in the first place are still there. No amount of management pressure or retraining is going to change the culture permanently. It will make a dent temporarily, and you can see it here, 2 and 3 year cycles, right? But it's not going to do it permanently. So that's what we're going to talk to you a little bit about. We set out to change their culture permanently. And what happened after this training went in place and all of the elements that went with this training was that they have had 0 claims since the day we put it in place in 2013 across their entire network for technician-induced error. Now that's mind-blowing. Now I'm going to tell you right now that we haven't had the same success at every place that we've gone. And because we haven't, it's allowed us to fine-tune this program to look at why it works better in some places than it does in another. And to build a program that was so integrated, builds on the synchronization between products, and is easy to execute and doesn't take a lot of time out of your workflow or your workday. Now that is a task that took us a while, even for us. And so let's look at exactly how we did that. Now you can see this stack of cards in the background. Every technician that we've talked to, over 30,000 of them, we give the opportunity to comment on a variety of ways, right? Each of these technicians, and if you give two things I've learned about maintenance technicians, they're interested in telling you what they think. And the second thing is most of them have really bad penmanship. But I read every one of these things, over 100,000 comments, and we analyzed them and we looked at them and we refined the program to a point where I think it is now implementable by anyone that can find a project officer that can follow a checklist. So what we're about to show you is what I believe is the most aggressive and proven air control program in the history of aviation maintenance. So what is it? A Neverevents program is either a 1 or 2 year program, depending on the severity of your challenge and the size of your organization. Why that long? Why can't we just do fire and forget training like we tackle everything else? Well, because it doesn't work, right? Training has a really short shelf life. And so what we're going to show you is something that's not really a training program. It is what we call an immersion process. It's a cultural reset program. So this program is multifaceted. It's designed to be sustainable because after it's done, you have new norms established. Now, having said that, if you don't pay attention to a culture, it will always degrade. It will not get better on its own. You have to pay attention to it, and I'll explain why as we move forward. So we've put this program together that allows your entire team, from your newest hire technician to the people that work backbench issues to your managers, all the way up to your executives. And it's all designed to focus on eliminating these 6 specific outcomes, right? And I'm going to get to what they are here in just a second. And it's also been carefully refined to have a minimized footprint on what you're doing day in and day out, okay? So here are the never events, right? And it's a cool little graphic, and there's more to each one of these. And we're gonna get into a little bit more of the definitions of each one in a minute. But here's what they are. The wrong person working or approving work, the wrong part or an incorrectly installed part, the wrong fluid, improper movement, lost tool or other item, basically a FOD challenge there, right? And unsecured panels. Those 6, 20 billion bucks or more every year, and that doesn't even hit the below the water line on the iceberg picture when you look at costs, right? So how do we tackle these? In a large sense, we take 4 fundamental approaches. And as you see these approaches, you're gonna say, well, we're already doing that stuff. All right, keep in mind, every one of these, competence, compliance, awareness, and teamwork, are designed specifically against every one of the 6 never events. And more importantly, they are linked across these 4 pieces, right? So when we talk about competence, we're not talking about is a guy trained and authorized to do the work. We're talking about the level of self-awareness that he or she has on how proficient they might be. When was the last time they did this? Have we changed anything in the task card or the policy or the procedure? Am I working with a new team member? Right? How tempted are we to cross the line into compliance? So you can see how all 4 of these things weave together, and we address them against each specific never event. So we keep it simple and powerful. So we're not overwhelming them with a whole bunch of information that's not able to be applied immediately on the floor. And when we do this, we slowly squeeze that never event out of existence, or at least significantly reduce it. But it's not our goal to reduce it. It's our goal to eliminate it. And we tell that to the technicians right up front. On your next shift, watch out for these 6 things. Don't let them happen. Could you do that if you had heightened awareness and you were paying attention? Almost 100% of the hands go up. You say, could you do it for a month? Yeah, a few hands go down. Is it likely that your entire organization could do it and sustain it? Hardly any hands go up. Right? So what we want to do is we want to change that equation. Each and every one of those technicians said, yeah, I can do that, and I can avoid it on my next shift. Well, how do we build that sort of heightened mindfulness, being in the present, not this shift, and then not the next shift, and then not the next shift? How do we do that? That's what this program is designed to do. So let's take a look at the 6 never events in just a little bit more detail. Wrong person, right? Allowing somebody who's not trained, qualified, certified, or authorized, or, there's a lot of ors in these things, there's always one or, is otherwise mentally or physically compromised to work or approve work on an aircraft. So what is mentally or physically compromised? First thing that's going to come to mind, right? I know you're all thinking it, fatigue, right? But it's not just fatigue. There's all kinds of other distractions that we point out to help people, and we actually provide some tools to help them. One of the catchphrases is be here now, right? Putting focus on the right things at the right time. So that's wrong person. The next one is wrong part, which kind of means wrong part, use of bad parts, right? Incorrect, single-use parts that get reused out of convenience, or hey, this looks pretty good, untracked time, untrusted source, those kind of things. Or the incorrect or incomplete installation of good parts, wrong part. The next one, and this is a biggie, right? Goes by a lot of names, hanger rash, things like that, is improper movement. Now I want you to understand this is not just improper movement of the aircraft, it's improper movement of things around the aircraft. All of the equipment, and I'll even go as far as saying, vendors. We've seen Frito-Lay's trucks drive into to major airline wings because they were moving toward a catering location and lost track and who they were talking to on the radio, took their eyes off what was in front of them, and they do damage. So we want to make sure that when we're talking about improper movement, we're talking about not just the airplane moving, anything moving around the aircraft, which includes people, by the way, and also make sure that they understand that this means not only horizontal movement, but vertical movement, like jacking. We've seen dozens of events we've analyzed where an aircraft is jacked into something, or they jack it up and move it a rack or something underneath a wing or some other part of the aircraft, and the hydraulics settle a little bit and it does damage there. So we work hard on this one, again, with that competence, compliance, teamwork, and awareness squeeze box that we put on improper movement. Let's move on to the next one, and that's wrong fluid or lubricant, right? So we say wrong fluid or lubricant. There's a lot of gotchas here, right? There's people that have tubes of grease in their toolboxes and maybe use the wrong fluid. The big thing about wrong fluids and lubricants is they can contaminate entire systems, right? So small error, big cost, non-linear cause an event. So this is using an unapproved or contaminated fluid or lubricant or improper servicing or application. And a lot of times you'll get the right fluid and you're applying it with the right equipment, but the equipment's contaminated. So again, a lot of angles on this, and we surround it with those 4 tools and we try to drive it into non-existence. Next one, this is FOD related, right? Lost tool or item. A lot of discussion here on maintenance hygiene, cleaning as you go, but basically it means signing off a task without accounting for all the tools, other equipment that you used or created on the job. So that's shavings, fasteners, rags, a pen or pencil that you were using to write something down to remind yourself of something later, anything. So I know you're all thinking, well, we have a tool control process. I promise you that what we are teaching here and describing here goes well beyond that. And again, specifically tied to preventing this event, right, from occurring. Next one, please. And then there's one that's the most embarrassing of all, right? How many times, more times, are we going to see pictures of passengers taking photographs of panels cowlings or fairings that came off an aircraft? So unsecured panel is releasing an aircraft with a panel, door, fairing, cowling, plug, or latch. Might be missing some there. There's a lot of things we need to secure, right? Challenge here is that oftentimes this is thought as not part of a major task, right? And so it happens all too frequently. And I think this is one that's pretty, now none of them are easy, but it's a simple solution with a couple of really easy to use and apply tools that we provide to make sure this doesn't happen. Okay, so we've gone through the 6 never events. What do you already know about these? You already know, I mean, any professional maintenance person in the world or quality person or safety person knows the vast majority of these incidents are caused by people who fail to follow existing guidance. So we look pretty hard at that. And in many cases, what we discover, and you know this as well, that somewhere in the past, these became normalized. They became kind of traditionally accepted sloppiness, right? And unofficially condoned. There was a patient zero back there somewhere in the past that did it, got away with it. Nothing bad happened to them or the aircraft. Others observe them, and it starts to spread like an infectious disease, right? We call it the disease of sloppiness. So the Never Events program begins with the possibility that you have some of this, and I pretty much guarantee you everybody has small pockets of this disease. And it provides the means and persistence to reset these cultures. And then again, no culture stays. There's no such thing as sustaining a culture. It's getting better, it's getting worse. And without your attention, it's probably getting worse, right? So bottom line on this is that the Never Events program is not merely a training program. It's not even primarily a training program. And here's why. Because the shelf life of training is extremely limited. And without saying a bad word about millennials or Generation Zs or our new generational workers, let's just face it, their attention span is smaller and they learn in smaller bits, right? They learn from YouTube, they learn from different things, different ways than traditional training has occurred in the past. That's neither good nor bad, but it is the reality and something that we got to recognize. If the shelf life of training is limited, guess what we have to do? We have to continue to hit them with the key objectives of that training after they leave. And so that's where the rest of this program comes from. So here's what the program looks like. There's actually 7 elements. And what we're trying to do is create not only a culture of full compliance, but we want a culture of continuous improvement. Because once that culture of continuous improvement is in place, it will sustain the gains that you've made, because people aren't resting on their laurels. They're looking for the next best way to be a little more efficient, a little more precise, to share a lesson learned. So that's the goal of this. And yes, it begins with training. And I'm going to go through these 7 elements pretty quickly, and then we're going to back out and look at each one for a minute. So training, we provide some technician tools. The one we're going to go over is something that I think is really cool. We call it our 5-minute briefing protocol. There's a training support package, which is designed to keep all of that in front of the technician or servicing agent and routinely and regularly in front of them. There's something kind of cool we call an operational challenge, and that is a way that immediately following the training, there's a focused short duration effort to apply it so that they take it from the classroom or the e-learning or the webinar or whatever it is to the maintenance floor or the flight line and get to apply it almost immediately, and we keep score, right? There's an implementation guide, and this is the most recent thing that really brought this all together, that if you have a decent project officer, you can assign to work this for 15 minutes to a half hour a day, maybe even a little bit less, and they know how to follow a checklist. You can combine all of these elements seamlessly, and you're going to get the maximum impact. Just in case they can't, or they've got a question, we got somebody on the other end of the phone who's going to reach out to them monthly to remind them and be there if they have any challenges. And then we also have a very in-depth self-inspection tool that when you combine it with the feedback you're going to get from your technicians that go through this program and your first-line supervisors and your inspectors, you're going to be able to go to some specific areas that will have you look deeper into your systems and say, hey, are we doing this? Here's some best ideas. Here's some FAR guidance, et cetera. So those are the 7 elements. Let's look a little bit deeper at each one of them. So training elements and options, there's live in person, which we started out this program doing. Everything was taught by professional convergent instructors, including yours truly. There's a challenge with live training. It's expensive. There's a lot of travel involved. And quite frankly, when you've got live trainers out there, they have good days and not so good days. And some trainers are a little bit better than others. All of them are excellent, don't get me wrong. But the fact of the matter is you lose a little bit of standardization. But what you lose in standardization, you get in that ability to have a back and forth discussion in the same room. So there's goodness there. Live and recorded webinars, you're always going to get our best instructor. You're always going to get a standardized product. There's still that opportunity to engage, but I get it, it's not the same. And the price point goes down significantly. We have an e-learning option that takes, all of these, by the way, cover exactly the same training objectives. An e-learning option that we use some pretty sophisticated e-learning software to create. And then, of course, for large organizations that want to teach this live and develop their own expertise, we have train the trainer programs available. Those are only as good as the input we get into those train the trainer programs. We don't certify everybody that folks send to us to become trainers, because the quality of the trainers is the quality of the program, quite honestly. So what's the training look like? The basic technician and servicing training is about 3.5 hours of initial training, covers all 6 Never events, all 4 of those tools, teaches them how to use the tools that we're going to provide for them. And then there's additional courses for first-line supervisors and for senior managers. They receive specialized 2-hour courses. Highly recommend they also go to the 3.5-hour course, but it's not required to make the program work. But at least for first-line supervisors, I think it's probably a good idea that they attend what their technicians are going to get, and then get the specialized training on what they can specifically do to make sure the technicians are empowered and motivated to apply the lessons that they've learned. And then, because we know there's turnover in this industry and growth opportunities right now in this industry, we provide a new hire indoctrination course. So it's a scaled down e-learning version or a webinar-based version for anybody that you bring on board so that they walk into the workplace with the same language. They understand what's going on with your Never Events initiative. Okay, roll into the next element, technician tools. And there's more than one of these, but I'm going to tell you this, if you do nothing else, is going to have the most immediate impact of the entire program. Now, you can't use this without getting the training because they won't understand what it's for. But the Take 5 briefings are basically 3 briefings, a 2-minute or 1-minute pre-brief, a 2-minute debrief, and a 2-minute operational pause. We'll go over each one in a minute. But I want you to understand the science behind it. It uses a concept called cognitive forcing. Cognitive forcing is questions that you ask that force the mind to answer them, and in so doing, it sheds the distractions and dramatically heightens a shared mental model and self and team awareness, right? It also allows us to stop the action when things change, to do the same thing that pre-brief does, to reassess what's going on and re-engage with a shared mental model. And then finally, the 2-minute debrief captures lessons learned and has been clearly demonstrated to improve the number of reports that you're going to get into your safety and quality management systems. So let's just take a little bit deeper look at what that briefing package looks like. These are 2 cards, front and back. The one on the left is the 1-minute pre-brief and the 2-minute debrief. I've got to zoom in here a little bit. So if you see me leaning forward, that's what I'm going to do. So let's just briefly take a look first at that 1-minute pre-brief. Question 1, is everybody here trained and authorized to do this task? You would think that scheduling and your supervision would take care of that. You'll be surprised at how many times somebody goes, yeah, no, I just was told to come over here and give you a hand. Okay, now that I know that, let's figure out what we can do about it, right? You're going to be carefully supervised, or no, you're not allowed to work on this task, or something like that. But that first question will get you out of a lot of trouble. But okay, let's assume everybody says they are. Then we ask those cognitive forcing questions. Hey, we're getting ready to get in here and work on a hydraulic pressure line for a flap actuator. Where on this task could somebody get hurt? Where could something get damaged? Where might we be tempted to take a shortcut? Right? And here's the biggie. What could be different on this one than the last 6 times we did it? Right? What's different this time? So those simple questions will get everybody's head in the game, right? It ensures that they're mentally and physically ready for the task at hand. Okay, let's go to the end of the task, and then we'll jump into the 2-minute pause. At the end of the task, we basically ask the same questions. Where did we maybe marginalize safety a little bit? Nobody got hurt, nothing got damaged, but where were we the closest to the edge? Did we violate anything unintentionally, or did we take a shortcut and nobody called us on it? Did we not understand something? And let's make sure everybody's clear, because there's opportunities to learn. And if what we learned was important enough, maybe we ought to share it with the system and stick this in the quality or safety management system. So captures lessons learned and promotes reporting. We just added this 2-minute operational pause recently because we were seeing that the 1-minute pre-brief and 2-minute debrief, while very effective, didn't address things that happened mid-task. So first of all, on the front side of the card, there's a visual. It says timeout. These are meant to be lanyard cards. They're plastic, and some people don't like lanyard cards because of FOD and all of those things. So if you're that kind of organization, we can do these with toolbox stickers or posters or banners or anything. But basically, the timeout card is designed for use when somebody might be out of earshot, right? Maybe they're wearing hearing protection. Maybe there's a lot of noise going on. Maybe they're too far away on an aircraft move and forgot the visual signal or whatever it is. But they basically flash this card and it says to whoever the supervisor is, hey, I'd like to talk about something. And then we have that discussion guided on the back side of the card, right? It's update on the task or situation, right? Any questions on roles and responsibilities or next steps? You ask that, what could be unexpected again? What are we missing? And then, is everybody ready to proceed? And that's in each member. And ready to proceed, as we train this, means you don't have to go get a task card. You don't have to go get a tool. You don't have to go take a bio break. When we break from this pause briefing, we're going to work, right? So you don't allow any time for the distractions that come back in. So really powerful impact tool. And a lot of folks, when they first rolled this out, thought, well, our people won't use it. Well, that can be true. And so there's some things that we work with first line supervisors and managers to manage the communication and rollout of this tool. And typically, we'll even hold an operational challenge that says, can we utilize this tool 75 to 80% of the time within 30 days of implementation? And we measure it. We're doing one of those right now with an organization in their maintenance department, and they're up to, I think, last numbers I saw were 76% in a 60-day operational challenge, as self-reported and observed. So pretty cool tool here. Let's go on and look at the rest of the training support package though. Okay, so what you're looking at on the right-hand side here is a clip out of our implementation guide. And you can see month 1, we're going to talk about wrong person, right? So up across the top, you see correspondence. We have pre-written emails for your managers to send out. Of course, you can change the words, but we figure make it easy, right? And that correspondence is you are the right person. And there's subtleties to that. There's a poster, wrong person countermeasures. And then we have micro videos, and we'll show you an example of one in a minute. All of these synchronized in month 1, right? Now, below it are the talking points for supervisors. They go out and in a shift meeting or something, they ask the group, hey, if you're doing something for the first time, what should you do? And there's some answers down there. So it basically is a prompting for your supervisors to have an intelligent discussion focused around the same thing that you just sent an email out as an executive, that they just saw the poster go up with the countermeasures, and that they just saw a micro video on. So you can see how we kind of immerse them in this. So all these things are pre-packaged and synchronized into a common schedule. So let's take a look at those posters, professionally done by our graphic design department, and they go up in pairs. They can go up all at once if you want, but we kind of like to phase them across our monthly rollout. Each one has the definition and a graphic of the Never event. Inside, right next to it, we recommend that the countermeasures go up. So they can look at it, they can look at the countermeasures. It's going to remind them of the objectives of the training, of the talking points, all of that stuff, just kind of wraps them around. So you can either print these. We're going to send them to you digitally. I'm sure that for a nominal service charge, we'll probably print them and send them to you, but we're trying to make this so easy for you. We keep the cost of this down by not having to do a lot of interaction other than with our program specialist. However, if you want printed posters, we can make sure you get them. And we also provide guidance on where they should be displayed. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is an example of a micro video. This is the scary part of this live stream because we actually have to switch from one stream thing to another. So I'm going to cross my fingers, hopes it go really well, and I'll see you on the other side of it in about 2 minutes. Make it happen, Andrew.
If everyone working on an aircraft follows every procedure that is in place, is it still possible to break the chain of airworthiness? We are going to pause for a few seconds and let you think about this question. We think most experienced maintenance professionals will know the answer to this one. A resounding yes. But how can this be? The simple truth is that we can break the airworthiness chain in many ways. Non-compliance is only one. Far too often in our industry, we fail to effectively communicate. Maybe it's at the workstation. Perhaps we are in a hurry to get home after our shift and forget to pass along some vital piece of information. Or perhaps someone we are talking to is distracted when we explain a situation or a task step. Every one of the Maintenance Never Events can have failed communication as a root cause. So what can we do about it? Over-communicate everything. Double-check that what you said to someone during a task handoff or shift change was understood. Pay close attention when someone is communicating with you about your tasks. If you have any lingering doubts, go back and make certain that the information was shared accurately and completely. At the beginning and end of the process, we must all realize that airworthiness is a team sport. And if we fail as a team, we fail each other, our customer, and everyone in the public who will ever fly on our aircraft.
Wow, I love it when a plan comes back together. Micro videos are not just reinforcing the objectives of the initial training in the posters. Micro videos are advanced training. We go a little bit deeper into each one of these areas and provide something new for them to do and apply, like over communicate everything. So a really powerful tool. They can be viewed on a cell phone, a tablet, or you can use them to play at shift meetings, 100 different ways to roll these things out, and all that stuff is in the implementation guide. So the next piece of it is something we call 2-minute e-readers. This one's called the Forgotten Hero. It talks about those that tirelessly work behind the scenes and allow great things to happen. They're short, focused. They're framed around a single topic. There's a lot of different ways you can distribute them. I've always liked people that print them and slide them in the latrines or the bathrooms, because everybody always picks something up to do there. You'll see that these have they're kind of unique from the other types of training. There's a paragraph that talks about what the concept is, a couple of probing food for thought questions for self-reflection. There's a quote from a famous person. Then there's a historical case of when this actually applied in history. And most significantly at the bottom, for those of your fastest swimming fish, they'll say, hey, if you're interested in this topic, here's a couple of books to read or articles to read or websites to go to. So another part of the immersion experience with these e-readers. Now, this is a self-assessment model. I'll tell you, we built the name of it around the acronym. We said, no, that acronym doesn't work. That doesn't work. So this is called the Neverevents Gap Analysis Tool for Excellence, Negate. We settled on that. And it looks like an audit, smells like an audit. It ain't an audit. This is a way that when your technicians provide feedback to you, which they will through this program, it will allow you to go to specific areas and look at your systems with some FARs and some best practices. And it is definitely not gospel. It will be routinely updated as this program evolves and rules and best practices change. But right now, it's a really powerful tool to look deep into the systemic issues, because the rest of the Neverevents program focuses on the human issues, right? So that's the Neverevents Gap Analysis Tool for Excellence guide. Most significantly and most recently, what you've got here is a program implementation guide. This is just one page out of it. It's, 40, 50 pages long. Comes with that card that you saw earlier that said month 1. That is, okay, he's in month 1 or she's in month 1, looking at what needs to happen, how it's all synchronized. This is the back end of that. This is a checklist that says, okay, I did this, I did this, I did this. So it's redundant and it is drop dead simple. It's meant for somebody that has no previous knowledge of the program or even aviation maintenance. And it is critically important because when this program in our history has not had the same impact that we had with that first program, it's because the integration broke down. The synchronization didn't happen. The posters didn't go up. They got uncoordinated with the micro videos. The first line supervisors were talking about something different than the senior managers were talking about. And so that was something we had to solve. And frankly, we took some 2x4s to each other's heads, and we said, we're not rolling this program out until it's simple to execute. And this is the result of that. Okay. Full synchronization, timeline, checklist, milestones. But just in case there's still questions, we add a program support specialist. This is somebody who's run one of these programs before, who's going to give you a call every month and say, hey, how you doing? You doing okay? If you answer yes, he's out of your hair, she's out of your hair. But they're there for troubleshooting, problem solving, and they'll be assigned specifically to you, so you'll be talking to the same person every time. We have these things we talked about earlier, operational challenges. Here's a poster from one we did in the past. We called it Stoptober, and it was specifically about aircraft movement, and we challenged them to reduce the number of incidents of improper movement. We measured it with an observation checklist we handed to some quality people and through self-reporting. And it's short duration, tightly focused. We keep score and we celebrate whatever improvements that we have made. And so it's a way of driving that training deep down into the operational environment almost immediately. So when you roll this program out after the training, you should follow it fairly quickly with an operational challenge. There's 3 types of them. I won't go into the different types, but it all has to do with how you measure it and what you're hoping to accomplish. So really cool, interesting way to activate learning, because that learning has a shelf life, and this drives it down into the line. So big program, right? Lots of moving pieces, but I'm here to tell you it will run like a BMW transmission synchro mesh through that program implementation guide. And it's all designed to create that immersion experience that we are desiring, so that a maintenance engineer shouldn't be able to go anywhere or do anything without bumping into some piece of Aviation Maintenance Never Events. Next slide, please, Paul. Paul's kind of handling my slides from the back room here. That's what we call the Never Events immersion experience. And I know the PETA and Greenpeace people are going to be all over me for saying this, but you shouldn't be able to swing a dead cat without hitting something about preventing never events. And over time, the language, right? I'm going to call for a 2-minute ops pause here. It will find its way in. How will you know it's working? Well, your outcomes are going to get better. I flat out guarantee you that. But you're going to hear people talking a slightly different language, a language of never events prevention. And the way that happens is with all 7 of those elements coming together to create that immersion experience. All right, I can't give any webinar presentations without including my performance evolution ladder. This is something that's been around for a couple of decades. Originally, it came out in a book called Flight Discipline I wrote back in the 90s. But you can kind of look at it and figure it out, right? There's 2 staircases. One that goes down, we call that the road to hell. And one that goes up, we call that stairway to heaven. We're pretty good with PowerPoint. We could have made this 1 staircase, but it's not. It's really 2. And the first thing I want you to understand is that what we often drive toward is that little green box of effectiveness, right? And what that is that's performance to the standard, right? It's the gentleman or lady that comes in and brings their lunch bucket to work every day, doesn't cause any damage, doesn't cause any problems. The airplanes go out airworthy on time, and you've met the standards. The challenge with that is that when you're staying there and not providing continuous improvement challenges, you're living with some pretty nasty bedfellows close by, right? And we call this yellow box the crushing grip of mediocrity. What you have to understand, and what you do understand, is that those aircraft that we're putting out there sometimes may be required to perform well beyond the design spec. Maybe it's a thunderstorm, accidental thunderstorm penetration. It gets hit by lightning or a drone strike. Who the heck knows? But in our industry, as within almost every high-risk industry, there are times when the system is stressed beyond the regulatory mandatory standards, right? And so we point that out. The reason that we want to take people aiming at efficiency and precision and maybe even flirting with perfection, that's where Never Events is aimed. We aim and train above the bar of mere compliance, right? And there's another reason that we tell them to do it. Guess what? If you're a lazy person like me, it's easier to do it at an efficient and precise level, always looking for that next little lesson. Not only that, there's joy, intrinsic, authentic self-esteem that comes with doing excellent work. So you can tell there's some inspiration along with the information that we put into this program. And I know that we've come at you with a whole lot of material here in 45 minutes or so. This is not as heavy a lift as it sounds like. Because of the work that my team has put into this, we have made it drop dead simple to implement. We like to always use the word elegant. An elegant solution is something that is complex enough to work, but so simple to apply that it will actually be executed, right? It requires no special preparation. You know, I think as an industry, a long time ago, somebody gave me this coin. Aviators get coins all the time, right? But somebody gave me this one. It's not like a 28th Bomb Squadron coin or anything like that. It's a quote from Marcus Aurelius. And I'll read you the quote, and then I'll tell you the front end. It says, "The impediment to action advances the action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And on the flip side, it's basically the obstacle is the way. And for so long, we've been talking about what are we going to do about this problem of hangar rash and wrong parts and human error. What are we going to do about this? And we try to find technology. We try to find some other way. I think it's time to take Marcus Aurelius's words and say, let's stop trying to work around the human error to find systemic solutions for everything. And let's tackle it right at its source. Let's have the obstacle become the way. The obstacle of the technician that may not be totally informed or totally on the same sheet of music or maybe out of sync with the team or somewhat distracted. Those are the obstacles. Let's go right after it. Let's stop talking about doing something about it and let's do something about it. And the important thing here to understand from my point of view is that this is not wishful thinking. There's 30,000 technicians that are applying this out there today. And I believe in my heart that we have an opportunity to take this and move it across the globe and look back at this and say, why do we wait so long to get to something like this? So I'm kind of out of words here, I think. And so it's probably time to turn it back over to you. We've kind of told you about the program. We've told you about how it came to be, all the elements that are involved. The only thing that we probably haven't told you is how do you get it and how much does it cost? And it all depends on the size of your organization and how fast you want to move and what type of options and training you want. All of that you can get from us by either emailing me, T. Kern, or just Tony at convergentperformance.com, or just hit our website with an inquiry. It's pretty self-explanatory from there, and we can provide you all the information you want. But for now, let's open it up for questions. We've got a few minutes left. Mindful of everybody's time, I will stay here for as long as we need to answer any questions, but we understand a lot of you have to get back to your job. So thanks again for joining us today. And who's got something tough they want to throw forward either in the comments or any other method that we have of hearing them. I'll turn it back to Andrew in the studio to figure that out. Okay, so this is from Todd. You can see it says, what's the cost structure? Yeah, it sort of depends. So this program is designed to be rolled out at three different levels. Small flight departments, maybe as little as 5 or 6 maintainers, or MRO environments where they're doing not only routine maintenance and servicing, but all the way up to depot level maintenance and servicing. And then large organizations, right? Major airlines, think of, or the OEM networks, things like that. So it's set up, the cost structure is set up different for each one of them. But basically, here's the one thing I will tell you is that we will not do this as a menu of services, right? If you don't take the whole program, we're not really going to offer it out as in piecemeal, because we've learned that doesn't work. And we don't want to do something. We don't want to waste your money. We don't want to waste your time. So basically, there is a purchase price for every one of those, and it will depend on the number of employees. There's some breaks about, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, between small, medium, and large. There's not necessarily any sort of setup cost per se. There is definitely the ability to pay this in installments over the course of the program. But the program is so plug and chug that everything's either downloadable to you or will be sent to you electronically. Some organizations have their own learning management systems. For example, if they wanted to use e-learning, others do not. And so there's a little bit of adjustment we need to make for those types of things. But yeah, there is a cost that will be determined by the size of the organization. and the complexity of your organization based on what you select, whether live training, webinars, or e-learning, and then any other the little tiny options, like if you want us to print the posters and ship them to you, those types of things. I will tell you this, the smallest mom and pop shop out there gets the same program, the same training, the same level of service as if all of IATA got all the major airlines in the world and wanted to join this program. You get the same quality and the same elements of the program. So that's kind of the way it works, and happy to have our business development director, Shay Comstock, who's listening to this, help you work your way through any of those challenges you have. We want this to work for you, so we're as flexible as we can be. What other questions? That was a great one. Give me something tough. All right, well, hopefully we've generated some interest out there, and I know that typically somebody that watches one of these has to go and talk to somebody else and get some questions answered, and we understand that process, and we're here to help you through that, just like we would help you through the program itself. So please, thank you for joining us, and please feel free to reach out to us with any questions you got. This webinar will be recorded, so we'll send everybody that was on here or that desires a link to this, so that you can look at this. One more question jumping in from Johnny. What sort of time per week do you estimate this sort of training takes? Okay, that's a great question. So initially, we want the people sitting down together, if possible. If it's e-learning, that's not always possible. But your team sitting down together for the 3.5 or 4 hour of training. That allows some crosstalk, and it makes that training stick a little bit better. That's one time, okay? That is one-time training. After that, over the next month, for example, the posters go up. That requires no time other than the project manager to put them up, either digitally or electronically. The emails get sent. Still no time off the worker's schedule, right? Technicians are out there doing it. In fact, really no time off the manager's schedule other than to copy and paste and reword the emails a little bit. The micro video gets posted. So 2 minutes. Typically, we would show that in a break room on a shift change briefing, or it depends on how your organization actually functions, but we want to make sure that everybody gets it, right? So after that initial training, literally as far as training time is concerned, it's probably just the 2 minute video, and those are only once per month. So you could take that down to, say, 30 seconds a week, I guess, if you wanted to divide that out. This is designed to be low impact on your workflow and schedule, because otherwise we found out people won't do it. Hey, I can't get my guy to the training because of the schedule. I can't pull him off a line to do this. We understand that. All you got to do is pull him off once for that initial training. After that, almost no impact on the schedule. Great question. Anything else? Or what else, I guess I should say. I shouldn't try to shut off the conversation here. All right, you guys, I really appreciate it. I think so here's a question coming in from Johnny. I'm going to guess you're with JARS or Mission Aviation or something like that. Overseas operations like Papua New Guinea, do I foresee any issues? No. I think part of our design was to make this, I mean, the only issue you got is if you've got internet and you can download stuff, even if you download it really slow, once you get it there, I think it's all good. This is designed to be able to reach anywhere in the globe that's got an internet connection. Great question. Yeah, have we found effectiveness of this program in a small general aviation shop? We have had implementation there. Anecdotally, yes, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. We haven't taken the time to measure it as thoroughly as we could, because we used other people's metrics for the insurance companies. But we have implemented it there. We've had anecdotally good feedback on it. It's actually a lot easier to implement in a small group because the culture is smaller, and you can form those really powerful teams that when new people come into them, automatically start to feel like this place is a little bit different. So yeah, we have had some implementation in small shops, quite a few of them actually. What else? All right, everybody, thank you again so much. My little live timer up there shows me clicking past the witching hour. I thank you so very much for your time and attention today, and we look forward to working with you and hearing from you in the future. Till then, good luck, keep them safe out there, and keep them flying.